Okay. What does John Travolta, magic pajamas, grape flavored Kool-Aid, and aborted fetuses living in the sewers of New York City plotting to take over the world have in common? We're gonna figure that shit out. 60 seconds after midnight, you know what that means. Time to get that chilled glass out of the fridge. Mix yourself one of them clean, creamy, crystal head vodka martinis. Drop in a few olives. Sit back, take a sip, chill. Let us do the rest. If you're wondering who we are your tour guides through the real, the weird, and everything in between. The show for street philosophers by street philosophers. I'm your host, Sean Tango, and this is Night Owlz. This episode brought to you by DarkStarsRecords.com, where hip-hop isn't dead, it's underground. As always, I'm going to leave a link down below so you can go ahead and check them out. And yes, you heard correctly. There are presently, as we speak, aborted fetuses in the sewers of New York City plotting world domination. Don't sleep. At least that's the truth according to the Nuwabians. Nuwabianism. Nuwabianism was a religion. Some may call it a cult. That was founded by Dwight York back in the 70s in New York City. It started out as a neo-Muslim movement. You know, look up a picture of that dude, Dwight York. I'm dead serious. Like, look up one of those, Google an image of Dwight York. He looks just like Ghostface Killer. Swear to God, they got like this picture of him as a younger dude, and he's like dressed up like a pharaoh and shit. He looked just like Ghostface Killer in that shit. I swear to God. Anyhow, amongst their various beliefs about these aborted fetuses, you know, amassing an army beneath the sewers of New York City. They also believe that the Antichrist is among us. You know, that's what these babies are waiting for. You know what I'm saying? They haven't, the aborted fetuses haven't risen up against us yet because they're waiting on, you know, they're waiting on the go-to from the Antichrist, which, by the way, as I said, is among us. Several decades ago, he was carried and brought to term by Jackie Onassis, the widow of JFK. Shit, I always knew the Antichrist was gonna be a fucking Kennedy, right? Supposedly, the Pope was there to witness this birth. And who was the Pope at the time? John Paul II. Well, anyhow, the Pope was there to witness this, and then the baby was taken and given to the custody of the ex-president Richard Nixon, you know, to be raised by Nixon, which makes complete sense. Absolutely. Because, you know, who better to raise the Antichrist than Richard Nixon? I would assume that's just common sense. Look, you may be exactly like I was initially when researching all this stuff, and ask yourself the question, how is it that people can get wrapped up in such outrageous bullshit? I'm going to tell you right now, it's a lot easier than you may think. All right? Because at first, of course, I'm like, yo, there's no way that anybody can convince me of this shit being real. And there's no way that I would lay my life down for anything so fucking crazy. And the potential for these strange religions and these strange cults and these strange spiritual movements and all of this shit, you know what I'm saying? They all have the potential of being dangerous. You know what I mean? And they all are fucking bizarre. All right? Now, I would think to myself, because if you really do the research and you look at some of the people who have been involved in these strange kind of like cultish activities, you know, these groups, we're not talking about like mental midgets here. We're not talking about like some dumbskis and shit. All right, we're talking about, I mean, these are intelligent, educated, you know, high IQ, polished, refined motherfuckers who in places of authority and power, and, you know, politicians and doctors and shit, man. I mean, you know, there's a lot of, you'd be surprised, you know, how many people in power, you know what I'm saying? This isn't conspiracy theory stuff. You can research this, and this is absolutely true. Many of the people in our society that are in places of power and authority are part of these kind of occult, covert, strange fucking groups, fraternities and religions and shit, man. But then again, it goes back to how. how does this happen? Well, look, everybody's looking for answers. All right? Everybody's got questions. Now, the questions may vary, but we all got questions, and those questions are important to us. And a lot of us are also looking to fill some kind of void. I don't know if it, it doesn't matter if it stems from your childhood, if it's a fucking career thing, if it's a romantic thing. I don't know. It may be different for many people. But there's a lot of people, intelligent people, you know what I'm saying, that feel like there's something missing. And when you come across something, okay, that resonates with you so deeply, all right, that it makes you feel like it's filling that void, it's filling that need that needs to be filled, or it's answering those questions that need to be answered, then it's very easy to get seduced by that. And a lot of these movements, when they start out, can seem very benign, all right, very progressive, like people that their intention is to make some real positive change. And people don't always catch on right away. Not everything is fucking Scientology. You know what I mean? Not everything is so blatantly bullshit. Okay? Some things, and they're 10 times more destructive than Scientology. All right? Look at Jim Jones. All right? You ever wondered where that saying, "Don't drink the Kool-Aid" comes from? That shit, that's that Jonestown shit, man. And I actually got audio, which I'm going to play for you in a little bit, of the last speech that Jim Jones gave before the mass suicide in Guyana. It's fucking crazy. All right? And we're talking hundreds of people killed themselves over this. Whew. Babies, man. Babies. There were people with syringes squirting cyanide-laced Kool-Aid into the mouths of infants. Okay? All over the potential end of a spiritual movement, of a religious movement, that in the beginning seemed very benign. All right? In a time where, let me tell you about the People's Temple. All right? Because in many ways, when you look back at the beginning of the People's Temple, of what Jim Jones was doing, it gave the appearance of what I personally would believe a real Christian church would look like, a real Christian movement would look like. If you look back, and there's tons of like newspaper clippings and stuff like that, and Jim Jones was highly revered and supported and loved by liberal politicians and activists at the time. I mean, he was talking real social reform, and he was preaching that what would Jesus do mentality, that he who is without sin cast the first stone, turn the other, love thy neighbor as thyself shit. He was clothing putting clothes on the poor and feeding the hungry, and he was his church was completely racially integrated and open, and this guy seemed like the truth. He was involved, he was in the community. I mean, this guy was the real deal. He didn't come off like one of them greasy evangelist guys, not at all. And the community loved him. And unfortunately, where the church started, there was still a lot of racial tension going on. People weren't ready for churches being integrated. So, he up and moved his church to San Francisco, because at the time that was like the mecca of racial equality activism and stuff like that. So there it really blossomed. And so if you're looking from the outside in, this didn't look malicious at all. You wouldn't in a million years think to yourself it was going to end like it ended, man. That it was going to be so tragic. It's insane how fucked up this was. And people had no idea it was going in that direction, because, all right, people who survived this tragedy have testified now that, the majority of the congregation had no idea what was going on behind the scenes. I mean, already in San Francisco, supposedly there was some weird stuff going on, but the majority of the congregation didn't know. It was like that little elite clique. It's always the elite clique, right? It's always that little group within the group where the fuckery starts, But within like the main group, the top people in the church or whatever, there was already some weird shit going on in San Francisco. There was, drug abuse going on. Jim Jones was supposedly taking pills and, messing around with speed and heroin and shit. And I don't know, but there was some stuff going on. Supposedly he had made homosexual advances towards some of the males in his congregation, and people, he had humiliated and physically beaten people and stuff like that. But this all happening behind the scenes in this very little tight-knit group within the church. The rest of the church, everything seems hunky-dory, But what happened is that, people, news reporters and stuff like that. And back then, we still had people in the press that were the press. You know what I mean? We still have people who were just out there looking for the truth, with no bias. And people were investigating. Like, even though this guy, he had a good front, man, and everybody was loving him. And it was probably going to be an unpopular thing to go and try to find dirt on this guy, but people were doing that. And being the fact that he was, doing the drugs, he was getting a little more paranoid and stuff like that. And he didn't want his whole thing to get blown up. I mean, this guy has a whole congregation of people who adore him. There used to be people walking around with signs and t-shirts and shit. And it didn't say like, I believe in Jesus. It would say like, I believe in Jim Jones. You see what I'm saying? And once you get a charismatic leader with lots of fucking followers who's either saying he's in direct contact with quote unquote God and speaking for God, if not God himself, all right, here we go, right? Here we go. So fucking, he's already paranoid because of the drugs and stuff like that. People are investigating him. He doesn't, he's too fucking stressed out. So being that he's such an ideological fellow, he convinces everybody, hey, let's go to Guyana. We're gonna take all this church money. Okay, I'm gonna go out there with like, my team first, and then little by little you guys can come out there, and we're gonna be the change. We're gonna be the change. We're gonna start over. We're gonna get this land, and we're gonna start our own community, and we're gonna start our own utopian, world. And we're gonna be the shining example of what a real Christian socialist society looks like. Okay, and for the most part, from the outside looking in, it really did look like it was a pretty successful experiment. I mean, they were really pulling it off. People seemed happy. It was amazing what they were able to do with teamwork. It really seemed like an incredibly positive thing these people were doing. And they had everything. I mean, they really came together as a community. And I'm talking about they had this little medical facility. They had nurseries, school, entertainment. They grew their own crops, had their own food. They would get care packages from back in the States and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? They had medicine and, homes and living facilities, and everybody was working in harmony, and it was crazy. Fucking utopia, right? But people over here, some people over here, a particular congressman who I cannot remember his name, but there was a congressman back here who was like, hey, because there were some family members who were writing, to Congress and saying, my daughter or my wife or my brother or, my kid went to Guyana, ran off to Guyana with the People's Church, and I haven't heard from them in forever, and I don't know how to get in contact with them, and they don't know how to, we just want to make sure that they're okay. So this particular congressman became very interested with the whole movement, and he said, all right, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to check on your family members, and I'm going to report back, and I'm going to see what's going on. I mean, if things are the way they appear to be, then good. You know what I'm saying? I'll let you know. If not, then we'll do something about it, So they went out there, and what they did see when they first got out there was utopia, paradise. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was extremely happy. He didn't see any reason for any concern, The next day, as they were planning to leave, he gets slipped a note, and the note says, we're being held prisoner. Could you please get us out of here? And as you know, people started realizing that people were leaving, other people began to like get anxious and panic and want to leave as well. And then it started getting divided into the people that were leaving and the people that were staying. And long story short, you know what I'm saying? Because we're on the podcast and I don't want to keep you here just on this one thing, but long story short, Jim Jones knew that he couldn't let those people get back to the States, okay? Because if he did, then they would blow up his spot about all the crazy shit. Because once he was out there and he had everybody, they were in the middle of the fucking jungle, literally. Guyana, in the middle of the jungle, cut off from everything. He had ultimate power over these people. All right, he had armed dudes with AKs. Dude, it was insane. This dude was off the chain. And I mean, he had it so locked down that this guy, you know, who was over there and spent the night and all this stuff and interacted with everybody, this huge community of hundreds, all right, he couldn't see anything wrong. It wasn't until someone slipped him the note that everything started getting crazy. You know what I mean? And Jim Jones was like, look, if these people go back to the States, they're gonna blow up my spot about all the crazy shit I've been doing here, you know, and then they're gonna come down and they're gonna arrest me, and I can't fucking go to prison, and they're gonna shut down this shit where I'm king, I'm God here. I could fuck anybody I wanna fuck. I could do whatever the fuck I wanna do. You know what I'm saying? This is my own personal fucking, you know, well, I'm God. This is my own personal universe, and everybody here is fucking just my underling, my slave, my peon. I can't, you know, I don't want that to end. So in that desperation, he sends a few of his peoples to go over there and you know, kill the defectors and kill this congressman. So he comes, it dawns on him. He comes to the realization that, look, I just killed a congressman. This isn't good. Very soon now, the boys in green are going to come. You know what I'm saying? The National Guard, the Marines, somebody's coming. You know, you can't just kill a U.S. congressman. And so he's going to go out his way. He's going to take control of the situation, being the narcissistic sociopath that he is. And he's going to take all these people with him. And that's the unfortunate thing, is that even at that moment, where he's mixing, where he's having his most blind followers, his most staunch, you know, believers, mixing a vat of cyanide-laced Kool-Aid. And he's got all these people at gunpoint, and he's on there giving a speech on revolutionary suicide. Even at that moment, people still didn't believe that it was going to end the way that it ended. In the audio that we have, you're going to hear it. In the audio that we have, there's an elderly lady. You can tell she's an elderly lady. She gets up and she's like, hey, I'm not afraid to die for my beliefs. But is there nothing else that we can do? Why don't we up and go, you know, somewhere else? You know, why don't we go to Russia, to the Soviet Union? Because that's something that they had discussed, obviously. Because she says, what, you know, is the Soviet Union still on the table? Can we go to Russia? You know, she says, because I'm looking at all the babies. I'm looking at all the babies and all the children. And even though, you know, I'm not afraid to die for my beliefs, I believe these babies deserve a shot at life. So even then they thought there was a glimmer of fucking hope. They just couldn't see. They couldn't see, man. And at the end, hundreds and hundreds of people lay dead. Gunshot wounds, syringe marks from where they were injected with cyanide, fucking poisoned Kool-Aid, just babies, women, children, men, just fucking huge. The largest cult mass murder / suicide to ever be recorded. Just some crazy shit. And it all started as this little benign Christian movement that most of us, if we saw it at its inception, if we saw it at its beginning, would probably be behind 100% and say, hey, see, this is an example of what real Christianity should look like. You know? And look at this shit. So I'm telling you. And even though in the beginning I was saying, hey, they're dangerous, they're weird, these beliefs, you know, these strange organizations. But so are the mainstream. We've become, all right, look, if I came from another planet and, you know, I asked you to explain to me, I would see all these temples and synagogues and mosques and churches and stuff. And I'd ask about them, and I'd be like, well, what is this? And you'd say, well, this is, our religion, whatever. And I would ask you to explain, like, the top 5 mainstream religions to me. It would sound absolutely fucking bizarre to me. I would think you people were fucking crazy. And I'd go back on my fucking spaceship and go back to fucking planet Collab with the rest of my friends and fucking joke around about how primitive and crazy you motherfuckers are. Collab, by the way, being the planet where Mormons believe Elohim lives. That's where Elohim, I guess, quote unquote God, the Father. He lives on a planet called Collab, and we'll get into that in a minute. But my point is that even mainstream religions, things that we wouldn't necessarily consider a cult nowadays, are just as fucking bizarre and have the same potential. Look, don't tell me you got Buddhists lighting themselves up in protest. I mean, setting themselves on fire, right? You got Christian fundamentalists sniping abortion doctors. You got Islamic, suicide bombers. Like, don't look anywhere where there's blind faith and such powerful ideals and ideology. There's always going to be the potential for tragedy. It's just some things sound much more outrageous to us than others, because we've become accustomed to certain things and certain people having certain beliefs. Even if we don't believe them themselves, we kind of become accustomed to them, and we see them pretty benign. But I'm telling you, anywhere where there's powerful beliefs, man, there's always the potential for something fucking crazy happening. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and play that Jonestown audio for you guys when we get back from the break, just so you can check out how crazy that shit is. But before we do that, we're gonna get into Creator of the Week. Next week, we're gonna have some Infinite the Ghost for you. But this week we got Piano Strike by Caper featuring Smarts. Check you guys after the break.
I'll spark friction, just listen beyond the my constriction. Make you somersault before you hit the ground to change position. My decision is division to truly envision the mission that's really malicious and repetitious. The strike of the piano key just leads fulfillingly, helping me proceed lyrically. The thoughts I perceive, ideas up the sleeve, leave you dosed and comatose like you smoked a pound of weed. Grasp my sanity, insanity is roaming rapidly, grabbing a rotten apple, crushing the world miraculously. Damn blasphemy, people have the audacity to lie casually, not thinking about the casualties. Intense marksmen aim with the rifle, swallowed by the darkness amongst the disciples. Steps strifeful, crumbling right behind you. The earth cries while the terror excites you.
Parasites trying to drain the life out of me. Gradually train anatomy, surviving tragedy. Scratch you off my balls, just like you were a tick. Take my portraits off your walls as the clock ticks. To unwind, I guzzle gallons of wine. Take my time to redefine the art of rhyme. When rivers intertwine, my flow becomes unstoppable. I make my own paths, knocking down all these obstacles. The last laugh, one day I'm gonna own it. Before the moment, hold my breath, nah, I'll let you hold it. Nothing lasts forever, put a price on your leather. Curse you in each letter, doesn't make me feel any better. Screws loose and cellar, bringing down your dream house. When I crack a smile, I'm knocking teeth out. You can't escape the pain once surrounded by strife. Before piano strikes, I've just claimed another life. Another life, another life, another life.
Hey yo, I shove a block inside of your brain, master the fame, the range of the pain, tired of the people acting the same, expressing with the mind action. It's my reaction, attraction, absorb with the penalty, energy from the verse to be. Hold on, I need to breathe. Shit.
Piano Strike by Caper featuring Smarts from out in LA. Caper from the BX Boogie Down Dark Stars Records. As always, I'm gonna leave the link down below so you can check them out. Now, as promised, I'm going to go ahead and play some of that audio from Jonestown. It's a little edited. I'm not going to play the entire thing because it's just going to take up too much time. But I will put the link down below so you guys can listen to the whole thing if you want. And there's tons of it online. I'm also going to put the link for the Jason Begay YouTube video about Scientology. And I've been up on like that crazy Scientology shit. You know, like that L. Ron Hubbard Dianetics craziness for a hot minute. But out of all the things that I've read and seen and heard or whatever, the Jason Begay one was the one that most put you in the place of someone who had some critical thinking, who's obviously an intelligent person, someone smart who got caught up in dumb shit, basically. And I think it just does a really good job at doing that. So I'm gonna put that down below there so you could check that out too. Here's that Jim Jones thing, and right afterwards we'll get back and we'll discuss it.
The world, the kingdom suffers violence, and the violence shall take it by force. If we can't live in peace, then let's die in peace.
We're all ready to go. If you tell us we have to give our lives now, we're ready. I'm pretty sure all the rest of the brothers are with me.
Someone raising up every morning and not knowing what's going to be the night's bringing. It's much more difficult. It's much more difficult. Please, for God's sake, let's get on with it. We've lived as no other people have lived and loved. We've had as much of this world as you're going to get. Let's just be done with it. Let's be done with the agony of it. It's harder to have to watch you every day die slowly, and from the time you're a child to the time you get gray, you're dying. Dishonest, and I'm sure that they'll pay for it. They'll pay for it. This is a revolutionary suicide. This is not a self-destructive suicide. So they'll pay for this. They brought this upon us, and they'll pay for that. I leave that destiny to them. I want to go. I want to see you go, though. They can take me and do with me whatever they want to do. I want to see you go. I don't want to see you go through this hell no more. No more, no more, no more. You're trying. If everybody will relax. The best thing you do to relax, and you have no problem. You'll have no problem with this thing if you just relax.
Yeah, just relax. Just go into the light. That is some crazy fucking shit. And you know what? That's real life. That's not Hollywood. That's not the rap industry. That's not music. That's not Miley Cyrus twerking on a giant pink teddy bear. And people like to talk all this stuff about how entertainment, corrupts the youth, or how listen, man, I'd rather have 1,000 twerking Miley Cyruses than to have another Holocaust. Let me tell you something. This world has been violent, crazy, and fucked up way before any of this. Way before the internet, way before fucking rap, way before movies, way before any of this, okay? From the beginning of time, all right? We've been sacrificing people to sun gods and rolling young kids' heads down pyramid steps. Come on now. Come on. And for all our technological advancements, for, all our intelligence and wisdom and all the beautiful things that we do, man, human beings have always been the most destructive force on this planet. Nothing on this planet has ever been more destructive than we have been. And I don't think anybody can argue it. We came up with the nuclear bomb. Period. And we used it twice. Oh man. And there are, of course, religious movements or cults or whatever it is, however you want to classify them, that do believe 100% that man is the problem. And the last thing that we need to do is continue to procreate and fill the world with destructive human beings. Which brings us to the Church of Euthanasia. Please look these people up, because I can't even, there's not enough time for me to get into this one. The Church of Euthanasia, though, look, some of their tenets are things like sodomy. You can only fuck in the booty. You know what I'm saying? No babies. Cannibalism. All right, don't eat a steak. eat your neighbor. Abortion and suicide. Hey, if you're depressed, just shoot yourself. Just shoot yourself. To the point that this particular church has actually posted up bulletins on how to successfully commit suicide and end your life. They actually just queued up the website for me, www.churchofeuthanasia.org. Go check it out. Just so you can see how real this is. On their page, they actually have this image, which is like a sexualized depiction of the 9/11 tragedy. It has like this overblown woman in a very sexual way, in a very seductive way, being a nasty little girl, licking the side of one of the towers as a plane is about to hit it, almost like sociological porn. Like they're getting off on watching this. It has this on the website to the far left. It actually has a human population counter where it's like counting every human that's being born into the world. And right there are the 4 pillars: suicide, abortion, cannibalism, and sodomy. It says the one commandment, thou shalt not procreate. The funniest thing about this page, though, is at the bottom here. It says, did your sperm wind up somewhere it shouldn't? Call, and it has this 800 number for emergency contraception. It says, hurry, you got 72 hours. Yeah, it's crazy. But you know what? As crazy as all this stuff sounds, all right, this is a really slippery slope. And what I mean by that is, what are we going to consider a cult and what are we going to consider a religion? Because the Church of Euthanasia, is technically a religion. Okay? Now, even though I may not believe in the crazy shit certain people are preaching and practicing, I do believe in supporting their right to do so. Because I do believe in freedom of speech. I do believe in freedom of assembly, of religion. And in order to maintain those freedoms, then I also have to support the right for other people to do the same, as crazy as I might think it is, or as crazy as it actually is. All right. That's why education, wisdom is power. Education is power. Educate yourself on what it is that you are doing, or that you're potentially thinking of doing, or people that, any organization that you're potentially thinking of joining. All right. If you're one of these people that, you're looking for God, you're on a spiritual journey, and you identify with a particular religion or religious group, good. And if it brings you peace, if it makes you a better person, if it answers those questions for you, if it fills that void and it doesn't harm you or anyone else, great. All right. And I've said it before. That's fine. I don't care. All right. It might be the most, in my mind, in my opinion, it may be the most ridiculous, outrageous shit in the world. But if that's what floats you, but that's what does it for you, then more power to you. Life is too short to be fucking miserable. All right. On the other hand, educate yourself. Don't take anything on blind faith, man. Educate yourself about what it is that you're doing. Find out about these organizations. Look at their history. I mean, we live in the world of the internet right now. All right. Really, really make yourself aware of what it is that you're getting yourself into. And if you or anyone that you know is involved in one of these, fucked up cult situations or religious situations, seek help. There is help out there. Okay, I'm gonna put a number down below that you can call. All right, if you're involved in a situation like this and you feel that you need to get out. Okay. Now, not all cults and religions are doom and gloom. There's some silly shit out there that's just that silly. I don't know if people are aware of this, but back in 2001 they did a census, and in the UK and in Wales, like in England and in Wales, in the UK They did a religious census, and there was a significant percentage of people who actually put down Jedi as their religion. The practice, the religion of the Force as an actual religion, and so technically it is now recognized as a religion, with like followers and everything like that. I don't know if there's a Church of the Jedi, but I do know Jedi is actually on the census. It's actually technically counted as an actual religion. So you know what? I'm not worried about the Jedi. If they start a Sith cult, a Sith religion, maybe then I'll start to worry. That's the last thing we fucking need, is somebody actually thinking they're Darth Vader and shit. Then again, how much harm can some weirdo in a black cape running around with a plastic glow-in-the-dark stick actually do? You know what? Let's not find out. You know what? I'm gonna start my own temple. I'm gonna start my own church. That's right. I'm gonna call it the Temple of the Sacred Burning Bud. And our patron saint is gonna be Our Lady of the Blessed Bubble Butt Booty Clap. Oh shit. They're giving me the black light, so you know what that means. It's getting close to the witching hour, so it's time for me to say good night and get tucked in. As always, stay peace, keep it love, and treat others the way you want to be treated. I will see you guys next week. I'm gonna let Caper play you out. Peace.
K-pop, Dog Stars Records, baby. Let's get it on. Come on. Here we go. I blur your vision, distinction, no time for contradiction. You lost in your own mission, forget it, you go missing. Keep digging your competition, I'm blessed with the world vision. Constructing a master plan that'll bury division. K-pop stands for something that's reflecting the spirits. Repairing my own lyrics with the strikes and the senses. My mental capacity is the source of the weapon. It's the torch of the session, I break it through like reception. I'm a hyper bomb, stretching the arms, phenomenon. Dark stars as the records blow up like napalm. Hear the sound of the alarm, the fire truck is taking long. These flames are infinite, so it only means you gone. Nigga, I break your whistle, snatching your soul out of your vessel. My nines is parallel, extinguish your life in hell. The flows is overcome with the witty natural game, inflicted upon restricted like the master propane. The purpose of the strike when I write, become equipped with shadow case that'll cause an eclipse. Snatch the sun from the sky, turning your days to night. Not even your Superman can withstand my kryptonite. In fact, I blast back, strapped up like a knapsack. Disperse the hammer back, watch your ammo react on the fucking track. Gliding through the winds, I'm in it to still win. Diminish my sin, I'm busting your face, cripple your chin. I split the world in half, spinning pieces on the pentagraph. I'm a rhyme master, why the fuck you think I'm kicking your ass? Just listen to this ammunition breaking your